Okay, today we're going to be creating our cow catcher, and I'm going to refer to this drawing in order to create it. And we're going to create it with a loft. So we are going to create the larger shape that's on the base of our object, and then we're going to create the smaller shape and then loft them so that they join together. So the first dimensions I'm going to look at are the length, which is 1.8, and then it goes up straight 0.25, and then it goes at an angle with the very tip of this from the base to the tip is 1 inch. So I'm just going to follow these dimensions here. 1.8, 0.25 for this line right here, and then 1 inch from the very tip to the very base. Let's go to Inventor, and I'm going to open up a new IPT. Once your IPT is created, I'm going to create a sketch on the top plane. I'm going to click my origin, and I'm going to go to the XZ plane, and I'm going to hit New Sketch. And as usual, it turns this thing upside down so that the top is upside down. I'm actually going to keep it like that. I'm not going to turn it over, so make it so that your top is upside down. That way when we go to isometric view, the cow catcher will be facing us because of the way that we're going to create it. So I'm going to create my very first line. So grab your line tool, and my line here is going to be 1.8 inches long. So I'm going to make a line that's 1.8 inches long. So make sure it's parallel, and then I'm going to type 1.8, enter. And so now I've got a 1.8 inch long line. Now I'm just going to make the general shape however I think that it looks. And so I'm just going to come down and just make the shape. You can always dimension it later. So I'm going to hit dimension, and I'm going to dimension this line right here to 2.25 because in my picture it's 0.25 for this line and the other side line. 0.25. This side is going to be also 0.25. The distance from the base to the top is 1. So now I've got 0.25, 1.8, 0.25 on the side, and from the very bottom to the very top is 1 inch. Now, in order to make it so that these sides are even, there's actually a constraint up here called the equal constraint. If I click on this equal constraint, I can click on these two lines and they'll make sure that they're equal. Now that we've locked in all these other dimensions, it will work just fine. So I'm going to click on this line, then this line, and now they're evenly spaced. So I'm going to hit Finish Sketch, and I'm going to go to my isometric view. The reason that we made it upside down is so now the cow catcher is going to face us directly when we look at it. The next thing we have to do is create an offset plane. Let me look at our picture here really quick. The height of this object is 0.75 from the base to the very top. So I'm going to offset a plane from here to here, and I'm going to make it 0.75. So I'm going to go to my planes, and I'm going to choose offset from plane, and I'm going to choose my XZ plane because that's where I drew my original picture. So I'm going to click that, and then it's going to ask, I can either pull this up or I can just put in the number right here. So I'm going to put in 0.75 and check. And this is where our next plane is going to go, or our next drawing, I should say. So I'm going to click the edge of this plane, make a new sketch. As usual, it's going to flip it upside down, but that's fine because that's what we want. So in order for us to not have to draw this all over again, and so that we can line this up perfectly, we're going to go to Project Geometry. So I'm going to click Project Geometry, not on the word Project Geometry, just on this button up here. And I'm going to project all the lines of my old sketch. So when I click on this line right here, you see a yellow line show up. What's going on is if I go to isometric view, a line has been drawn on my plane. It just basically copied this line up to here. So I'm going to click all of my lines to project. So now I've got all these lines drawn in. So now I'm going to grab my line tool and I'm going to make another triangle, but this next triangular shape, it lines up perfectly right here. If I look at my picture, this is one flat surface that goes straight up and down. So this line right here at the base meets right up with this line right here. So this line should be on the same exact line as here. But these ones aren't. These ones are a little shorter because the height of this is 0.75, not 1. So So I'm going to go back to my inventor, and I'm just going to make a line across here, and then I'm going to come up, I'm going to come across, down, and down again. Now these two lines are the same as the 0.25, so I'm going to dimension these to 0.25. And I'm going to make these two equal. So I'm going to hit my equal. And I'm also going to dimension this line right here to the right distance. And the distance here, if I look at my picture, is 1.2. 1.2. So I'm going to make that 1.2. And then the final distance we need is the distance from this wall to this wall. And we can do that. Now, in order to find that distance, it's not given to us directly here, but we can figure it out. The total distance here is 1.2, and the total distance here is 1.8. So that's a difference of 0.6. So 0.6 is the difference between this length and this length. So we need to cut 0.6 in half so that it's equally distributed on both sides. So it's going to be 0.3. So I'm going to go back to Inventor, and I'm going to dimension from this line to this line, and this is going to be 0.3. Okay, now everything's lined up perfectly. I'm going to go to Finish Sketch, and so now we've got our thing ready to loft. So I'm going to click Loft, and I'm going to choose my first sketch that I'm going to do as this sketch. So I'm going to click on this yellow line here, and I'm also going to click on this face because I don't want to do this face, I want to do this face. So I'm going to add that face, and then I'm going to click to add right here, and I'm going to choose this sketch as well. And click OK, and there we have our loft, or our cow catcher so far. Now I don't need this plane anymore, so I'm going to right click it and I'm going to turn the visibility off. Don't ever delete a plane because otherwise it'll delete what you did on the plane as well. All we want to do is just make it so that we can't see it at the moment. Now that we have this loft completed, what we want to do is hollow it out. So we want to hollow this out by clicking on the bottom face. Now, before we click on the bottom face, this is where we want our hole to be. I'm going to go over to my picture so I can see what's going on. This thing has been shelled out. This area right here is a hole, and this area right here is solid. And so we want to go to the bottom face to shell this out. And the shell is going to have a wall thickness of 0.1. That's how thick it is from the inside to the outside of this shape. So I'm going to go back to Inventor, and I'm going to choose Shell, and I'm going to choose the thickness as 0.1. It's already been selected for me. All I have to do is select what face I want to cut out, and it's going to be this base face. So I'm going to click on the bottom here, and I'm going to click OK. So now our item has been shelled, and there's a 0.1 thickness all the way around here. So this has the same thickness. It also conforms to the shape, and so it dips in as it goes. So very handy tool is the shell tool. Now let's add in these little extrusions here. These extrusions right here are exactly parallel. All these lines are parallel with the outer lines, and the distance between here and here is 0.1. That means that the distance all the way around it is 0.1. And so there's a nice tool we can use in Inventor. I'm going to make a sketch on this face first of all. It's called Offset. If I choose Offset and click on this shape that I've got right here, I can click and I can offset this shape in any direction I want. Now I don't want to go out, I want to go in because this is where we're going to cut in. And I'm going to click. It doesn't matter where you click because all we have to do is dimension one side. So if I dimension from here to this line right here and make this 0.1, I was pretty close on this, 0.1, all of the sides will conform to 0.1. So now I can finish sketch, and I'm going to extrude this piece in. So I'm going to go to Extrude, and click on this face, and if I go to my picture here, the thickness here is 0.05. The thickness here is 0.1. So this extrusion right here has to be 0.05 also, because 0.1 and 0.05, if you subtract them, then that gives you 0.05 also. And so this thickness right here is going to be 0.05. So in Inventor, make sure that your distance here is 0.05. Also, make sure that this arrow is going in the right direction. So I'm going to change directions to this direction and ensure that cut has been selected. So click OK, and we've got our indentation right there. We're going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to change or click and make this a sketch. Go to offset, offset this down, go to dimension, dimension the distance between these 2 points, make it 0.1. Now that it's 0.1, we're going to finish the sketch and extrude this one also, and we're going to go 0.05 for this side as well. I'm going to do cut, and I'm going to go in this direction. So I'm going to select my guy that I want to cut in, ensure that it's going into the object, and then click OK. So we are pretty much completed with this. The only thing we have to do is add the little pegs on the back, but everything else is pretty much completed. So let's go ahead and make a sketch on the back side of this. And we are going to do 3 circles. So I'm going to grab my circle tool, and each of these circles, if we look at our picture, is 0.125 in diameter right here. So I'm going to make 3 0.125 diameter circles. Whoops. So one here, 0.125, one up here, 0.125, and one over here, 0.125. Alright, and we've also been given information on where these things go. So the distance between these two, the top middle one and the left, is 0.625 from the centers. So I'm going to go back to Inventor and do 0.625 between these guys. And we've also got 1.25 between the bottom ones. So I'm going to go back to Inventor and 1.25. So I'm going to dimension between these guys 1.25. Now the overall length of this line here, I'm just going to dimension it really quick just so that I know. It's not going to allow me to change this dimension because it's already a driven dimension. We've already created this object, so we can't add that dimension in. But I can just hit accept so that I know what's there. So basically what we want to do is make it so that this circle is evenly spaced to this side and this circle is evenly spaced to this side. And so what I'm going to do is do 1.8 minus 1.25 to get that number, and that's going to give us the number that we have to split between the two. And it's going to be 1.8 minus 1.25, and whatever that number is, we have to divide it by 2 so that it's evenly spaced on this side and this side. We have 2 sides. So I'm going to dimension from my middle of my circle to the corner of this guy. And this is going to be, in parentheses, I'm going to put 1.8, and then I'm going to put minus 1.25, and then close the parentheses, and then I'm going to divide that whole thing by 2. So I did 1.8 minus 1.25, the sum of that, or the difference of that I should say, divided by 2. And so now they're evenly spaced. Now we have to add 2 more dimensions. One, we need to know how far away this guy is from the base, so I'm going to dimension from here to the base. And if I look at my picture, it is 0.5 from the base. So in Inventor, I'm going to make this 0.5. And I'm also going to make sure that these guys are in line with each other because this one is a little taller than this one. So I'm going to click on the center point of this circle, the center point of this circle, bring my mouse out to the side here because this is how far apart they are. I'm going to click it and make this 0. Now they're in line, And I actually do need one more dimension. I need to tell how high these circles are, because I've already done the 0.5 for this middle one. Now I need to do the bottom ones. So in my picture, it says that to the center point of this is 0.125. So back in Inventor, I will dimension from either one of these circles to the bottom. So I'll just grab this guy to the base and make this 0.125. And you'll notice that both of them will go down because I've locked them in at 0 right here. Alright, so we have our circles all in the right places. They're all dimensioned correctly. I've covered all my bases. Go to Finish Sketch. And I got to extrude these guys. How far do we go? Well, let's see. We've got 0.125. Right up here we've got 0.125. That's how tall these guys are. So I'm going to extrude each of these circles 0.125. So now we got our 3 pegs that we can insert into our train. One final thing we have to do is put a chamfer on these circles, because in our picture it says that there is a chamfer on each of these edges that is 0.01 and 45 degrees, so that's just a regular chamfer. So I'm going to go to my chamfer and make it 0.01, and I'm going to click on each of my edges, click apply. They have now been chamfered, and our cattle, or our cow catcher actually is completed.